Fellow traders, 'tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you on Wednesday, March the 26th. The year's 2025. Let's talk trading. Indicators with Walmal. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. Now, I've been getting some emails about indicators and wanting to modify indicators, and um, I'm thinking that there's traders out there placing way too much importance on indicators. To me, an indicator is like training wheels. It's like it helps you see. Now, not all indicators are the same. Some indicators, like a lot of the ones I do, are gauges, and it'll give you data as opposed to giving you trade signals, because so many traders, they want that arrow. Oh, if I buy with the green arrow and sell at the red arrow, I'm going to be driving a Lamborghini by the end of the year. um and that's just not where it is. And most of the time, you know people are talking about indicators rather than talking about money management, risk management, or their internal psychology. And I think you just said it yesterday, Walmall. um we can I can show 10 different people the buy zone, and you probably have a couple successful, a couple will blow their accounts, and the others will be mediocre. And so, is it the system? Is it the teacher? Or is it the trader? And the thing is, it's the trader. you know, and the thing is, until traders realize that, you know, it's not going to change, you know.
Nope, it's not. And the thing is, it's funny. I'm going to go and add on to what I think an indicator is, and very similar to what you just said. All an indicator is just a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool. The reality is like if you're a carpenter, most likely what is on your tool belt? A hammer. Okay, that's all it is. Well, you can look at an indicator as nothing more than a hammer. Just because you have a hammer doesn't mean that you can be a finished carpenter or even a carpenter or even what they call around here a stick builder. A guy who builds houses out of two by fours. You know, just because you have the tool doesn't mean that you can go and actually build a house. You can have, you can own 1,000 different types of hammers, in fact, you know, and all the tools in the world. You could actually own every single tool there is to own in order to build a house, and that doesn't mean you can build the house. It just means you own tools to be able to build the house. And with, and that's what I look at indicators as. They're nothing more than something that helps you out, and like you said, they're training wheels. And they can be used for that to go and help you along, guide you along. It's a whole lot easier to nail a nail into a wall with a hammer than it is to try to do it, with, let's say, a rock or your hand, but so the indicator is nothing more than a hammer. It gives you the tool to do it, but that doesn't mean you know how to swing the hammer correctly. It doesn't mean you know where to place the nail to go and swing the hammer. It doesn't mean any of those things. It's just a tool that helps you go and do it, makes it more efficient in what you're doing, and maybe if you get proficient in that particular tool, or with that particular tool, you're able to spot things quicker. And over the years, what I found is, Hero, you've built a bunch of tools that I've asked you to go and to look at, and they've become very, very, helpful for me. And the funny thing, what I find is that now when I look at my chart, the only thing I've got on my chart is a is the indicator that paints the M candles indicator, which I can go and paint another candle over the top of the 1 minute. So I can, so for instance, I like to go and look at the 30 minute. I like to know where we are with regards to the 30 minute. So I paint the 30 minute candle over the top of the 1 minute candle. So I just know where we are in relation to that. The other indicator I have on there is the sweet spot gold, which is basically just does nothing more than paint lines every 5 pips. Why? Because I like structure and like to see where price is. And then and then I have EMA 5, and I have the opens for the weekly, the monthly, and the daily, and the H4. Okay, we're done. That's all I have. Everything, the rest of the screen is completely blank. I don't need anything else.
No flip flop
And
boxes?
no, I don't have the flip flop boxes on there anymore. There's no need for it. I can just, and that's the point of the training wheels, because you get to the point where, the training wheels or the flip flop box indicator was wonderful, because it taught me to go and see it. And eventually, it's sort of like eventually the training wheels come off the bicycle, and you no longer need the training wheels on the bicycle. You just see it. You just know it's there, and you see it, and you don't even have to think about it. And the nice thing about the indicator is it gets your brain thinking, oh, look, there's a flip flop box. Oh, look, uh, this is probably a good trade to go and take, or a good opportunity. And that's what, see, for me, that's the purpose of the indicator. This is do nothing more than that. To go and help me analyze what's going on in the market, and then over time, I become less and less. Anyway, a good indicator anyway should make you less and less dependent upon it, and better able to see what price is doing at that moment in time. And if you go and say, well, the problem is my indicator is doing this and it's doing that, it's taking a stochastic and it's going and multiplying it by 3.61, and then subtracting out this, and if it's in this particular range here, doing this, then I do that, and the indicator does all that for me. Well, that's really great. There's only one problem with that. You're doing too much. It's complicated. And trading doesn't need to be complicated, and it shouldn't be complicated. And when you go and start adding all those different things in there, you know what you've done? You've complicated your life. And it's sort of, well, what's the Reza Hakim, well, what's the whole purpose of that? The simplest things are the truest things,
Well, it's
and
usually
that's
the simplest solution is usually the best solution. Like talking
yeah,
about flip flops, if you're taking that flip flop, you'd be up 5.4 pips right now, 5.8.
yeah, yeah. And so, if I was trading at this point, you had a flip flop at the beginning of the 30-minute candle. You would have gone into that, and you would have been up like 5, 7 pips. And then you got into another flip flop, and then flip flop, you'd be up again another 5, 6, 7 pips. So the original, if you stuck the trade, you could have been up 15 pips. Well, no, that's not quite right. 12 pips. And then the second trade, you could have been up 7 pips. So you could have been up 20 pips almost.
Right.
And that's great. It's wonderful. It's a pattern that we see day in and day out. It happens multiple times a day. I mean, I've got over 50 pips today, doing nothing more, well, except for one other trade, but essentially nothing more than flip flop trades, just taking them one after the other. And and the amazing thing is I don't have a single loss day. Does that happen every day? Nope. Never will. It never will happen every day, but it happens so often. And again, like I said earlier in the conversation, I don't have I don't have the flip flop box indicator on my screen. I don't need it anymore. And the reason why I don't need it anymore is because the best indicator is on the screen always. For me, anyway, my best indicator is always on the screen, and it's the indicator that I didn't go and mention, but it's the most powerful indicator there is, and it's just nothing more than the candlesticks. Okay, the candlesticks just tell you everything there is to know about what's going on. It tells you where price is right now. It tells me where price has been, and it tells me, what the potential, even what the price is going to be in the future. And how do I say that? Because that, like for instance, with flip flop boxes, if I go and if I get a down candle, then I get an up candle, and then I get a break of the up candle, and I see that all on the candlesticks, I know that I got a flip flop box, and I know that there's a good chance this thing's going to run up at least 3 to 5 pips. Happen every time? Again, no, but it's right there. The candlesticks is the indicator. it is the best indicator that's ever been done. My opinion, my 2 cents.
Yeah, yeah, and the other thing about indicators is, people will have ideas, but they haven't put in any research time. It's like when I was first started doing this stuff, this trading and indicators and RSI, you would not believe I don't know how many hours and notebooks and clipboards and just running numbers and printouts. I mean, it was crazy. And
Oh
that's
yeah,
when I just basically I just threw it all away and said, you know what? I came up with the buy zone. And it was like, this just makes sense. And that's all I did.
yeah. You're exactly right. I think most people go through that stage of life. I did the same thing. I can't. I like to write things out on paper, and I probably have up on my bookshelf. I probably have 30, 35 composite. The old black and white marble.
Right,
Notebooks. I
right.
got probably 30, 35 of them, doing nothing more than just writing down price and watching price and make just to go and try to go and what's the logic behind this and what's going on, trying to figure it out this magic formula so I can go and get myself the indicator that never fails, and the holy grail, so to speak.
Right.
Guess what? It don't exist, but at the same time, I can then go and look, and it's sort of like when I first started talking to you about the Walmal method. You think about it, it's nothing more than a breakout method, and it was really simple. If it breaks the 10 line, then it breaks the 10 line to the upward direction, you go long. If it breaks the 10 line to the downward direction, you go short. Nothing more. There's you think about it, there's nothing simple at that. It broke a line. It crossed a line. Take the trade. Take the trade in the direction of the trade. Well, we don't know where you're going to put the stop loss. Well, hint, if it breaks the line in the other direction, guess what? You you failed. Okay, it's that simple. And does does that so like what I talked about yesterday? Does that mean your risk reward is a positive risk reward? A lot of people have. No, it doesn't. It means that your risk reward is usually about 1 to 1 or somewhere close to it. But it happens so often that it didn't matter. Now, I don't think it happens nearly as much as it used to, and that's just because I think the market changed. Back when I was doing that, we were every day getting 100, 150 pips on the pound in movement every day, and every day the H1 range was always 30, 35, 40 pips every single hour. Now, if you look at it, for instance, we got 35 for this hour, and 24 for last hour, and 16 and 12 and 17 go 3 hours before that during the London session. Well, guess what? You can't go and get your consistency of getting 10 pips is a whole lot less because of that. That doesn't mean the Walmart method won't work. It just means that you got to change it. We're no longer looking to try to grab 10 pips. We may need to only grab 5 pips, and you may have to go and adjust your stop loss. But but the concept is still there. You draw a line in the sand, and when you cross over the line, you take the trade. And if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. You know, no, there's no secret sauce.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and once again, there's just so much advertising, this indicator, that indicator. And, they're making money off of people buying their indicators. And that's one of the reasons why I don't sell indicators. It's like, yeah, I did the donationals only because a friend of mine said, hey, you shouldn't let half of those, pardon my French, assholes that, do nothing but talk about you have your stuff for free. Make them buy you a steak dinner. And that's how that whole thing came in. But I still, just have most of them out there where they're free to download. But there's just no real magic indicator. You've got to learn how to trade, you know, and putting an indicator on the screen and going long on an arrow or short on an arrow is not learning how to trade. Because fellow traders, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.